All right, let's jump right into this. We're about to take a cinematic trip through the first chapter of First Thessalonians. We're going to go verse by verse, and my goal is to paint a picture so vivid that you just can't forget it.
So, let's kick things off with a big question that this entire chapter is really all about. What does a faith that actually makes noise sound like? Not just being loud, but having an impact so real that it echoes. Let's find out.
Okay, verse 1. The scene opens on three guys, Paul, Silvanus, and Timothy. I want you to picture them huddled together. The only light is from a flickering lamp, and they are intensely focused on writing this scroll. This isn't just some casual letter. This is a critical message coming straight from the front lines. It's a team effort sent to a group of people they genuinely love.
Now for verse 2. And listen to this. The very first thing they write isn't a lecture or a list of rules. It's just this overwhelming wave of gratitude. Imagine zooming in on one of those men. His eyes are closed, he's deep in prayer, and you can almost see the faces of the people from Thessalonica shimmering in his thoughts. This isn't a once-in-a-while thing. Their thankfulness for this church is so constant, it literally spills into every single prayer they have.
Then we get to verse 3, and this is where Paul unpacks why he's so thankful. He says he can't stop thinking about three very specific things. First, their work of faith. Picture hands actually building something real and solid. Their belief wasn't just a feeling, it was an action. Second, their labor of love. Think of someone tirelessly, exhaustively caring for a sick person. This is love that costs something. And third, their patience of hope. You see a person just staring at the horizon, steady, refusing to look away. That's a hope that doesn't quit.
So yeah, let's just nail this down because it's so important. This is their unforgettable formula. Their belief was active, it was work. Their care was tireless, it was labor. And their focus was unwavering, it was patience. This trio, this is the secret sauce to their incredible impact.
Verse 4. This is huge. Paul isn't just guessing here, he has this deep, settled conviction. To picture it, imagine you're in a massive crowd, and suddenly this warm, gentle beam of light comes down from the sky and singles you out. That's the feeling. Paul is saying, look, I know it. I am absolutely certain that God shows you, that he loves you deeply. That's some powerful assurance right there.
So you might be asking, how did this happen? How did this message land with such an impact? Well, verse 5 tells us. When they shared the message, it wasn't just a boring speech. Picture the words leaving the speaker's mouth and literally transforming into waves of energy and light that physically hit the audience. It landed with power, with the Holy Spirit, and with absolute conviction. It was a force of nature, impossible to ignore.
And in verse 6, the plot thickens. This part is just wow. Imagine a group of people, men and women, and they're being squeezed from every side by these dark, menacing shadows. That's the affliction, the hardship. But then you look at their faces, and they are lit up with this pure, undeniable joy. That's the unbelievable contrast. They didn't embrace this message when life was easy. They embraced it with joy in the middle of intense suffering.
So what's the result of all this? Verse 7 shows us the incredible payoff. Picture one of those joyful people, the ones who were suffering, now being immortalized as this gleaming bronze statue. And you see other people looking up at it, not to worship it, but as a model, an example of how to live. They went from being students to becoming the gold standard for the entire region. Okay, verse 8. This is where the sound really starts to travel. Imagine their entire church is a giant bell in a huge bell tower, and every time they live out their faith, that bell rings out, sending these visible sound waves across a map. Their reputation, their story, became so loud and spread so far that it outpaced any messenger. Paul is basically saying, your story got there before we did.
And you can see it right here. This map just nails the concept. Thessalonica is at the epicenter, but it's not just a dot. It's a broadcast center. You see those circles pulsing out, covering Macedonia, then Achaia, and then, just like the verse says, every place. Their faith had become this unstoppable, echoing broadcast.
So what was the story everyone was telling about them? Verse 9 gives us the inside scoop, and the mental image is so clear. Someone is standing in front of these old, crumbling stone idols, and they make a decisive move. They turn their back on them completely and instead face this brilliant, warm, living light. That was their headline, a complete 180-degree turn from dead statues to the living God.
And here we are, the final verse of the chapter, verse 10. This is the closing shot of their story. You see that same group of people again, Only now they're all looking up at a sky that's getting brighter and brighter. And look at their faces. They're not scared. They're not worried. They are calm, confident, and full of expectation. Their lives weren't just about a change they made in the past. They were living every day with this powerful, hopeful anticipation for the future.
So think about that. The faith of this little community in a place called Thessalonica made us sound so powerful, so authentic, that we can still hear its echo 2,000 years later. And that really just leaves us with one heck of a question to think about. What will our story say? What sound is our faith making right now?